Welcome. Let's discuss Pascal's triangle. The way that we're going to be constructing this triangle is with the pattern. Let's start with the base. It's always going to be the value of 1. And if we want to construct a triangle, we need to go down in rows. There's going to be a pattern with how we're going to construct this row. Every time we go down by one row, we're going to increase the number of digits in it. So if we start with just one digit, then the next row is going to have 2 digits. But what's interesting about Pascal triangle is that the first digit in this row, it's always going to be 1. And the last digit, it's also going to be of a value of 1. So now let's define the next row. Let's increase the number of digits by 1. So we have 2. The next row must have 3 digits. We always start with 1 and we always finish with 1. But now, how are we going to find this digit that we are missing in this row? Well, the values inside the triangle are always going to be defined by looking at the two upper values and adding them up. If we add 1 plus 1, that is going to give us 2. Well, that's the value that we're going to be placing inside our triangle in this row. Let's go one row lower. So let's increase the digits by 1. We have 3. So the next one needs to have 4. We always start with 1 and we always finish with 1. And the way that we're going to be defining these two values within this triangle, it's going to be the same way as we defined previously. For this very specific space, let's look at the two values on top of it and add them up. 1 plus 2, that is equals to 3. So let's place that value in here. And to define the next value, let's add the 2 on top of it. 2 plus 1, it is also 3. And we're done defining this row. So this row had 4 values. If we go 1 down, now we need to have 5 values. Every row starts with the value of 1 and finish with the value of 1. But I want for you to see how I'm placing these locations for the next row. It's always going to be at the space of the upper row. Because when I do that, I'm always going to have one value on the left and one value on the right in the previous row. Because we need those to define the next value. So to define this value, let's add 1 and 3, which is 4. To define this value, let's add the upper 2, 3 and 3, that is 6. And to define this value, let's add 1 and 3, which is also 4. So we are done defining this row. Let's just do one more. The row that we have just defined has 5 digits, so the one that is going to be below it, it needs to have 6 different digits. We always start with 1 and we always finish with 1. And notice the location. I'm always placing it on the space that we had on the previous row. So to define this space, let's add 1 and 4, which is 5. To define this space, let's add 4 and 6, which is 10. To define this space, let's add 6 and 4, which is also 10. And to define this space, let's add 1 and 4, which is 5. And we can definitely spend a lot of time figuring out the next row. But I hope that with this, you do understand the pattern that we need to follow to create Pascal's triangle. Because every time that we look at a row and we increase the digits by 1, when we look at the overall pattern, it's always going to be a triangle. And this is what we define as Pascal's triangle. Now, when it comes to naming the rows, we have to be a little bit careful. Because even though it is tempted to say that the value of 1, it is the first row in our triangle, when it comes to naming, we're actually going to start with the value of 0. When we just started with the value of 1, that is the 0th row, not the first, but the 0. We always start counting from 0. Then the next row, even though it is tempted to say that this is the second row, if we start naming from 0, this is the first row. And now we can continue naming. Even though it is tempted to call this the third row, if we start counting from 0, this is the second row. And the next row, even though it's tempted to say is the first, second, third, fourth row, if we start counting from 0, this is the third row. and so forward. This is not the fifth row or the fourth. So let's be careful with how we're going to refer to these rows. It is going to be very important later on. Hello. If you would like to continue learning about mathematics, you can check out the videos on the left.